Good morning. Well, it's not even morning, not anywhere. Oh,
drifting tender, come ride, heroes ride. Her gallant severed away with the tide. The storm head gathers, come ride, heroes ride. Illusions scattered away with the tide. Why do weathered warriors wander their way where the wanting wonders wait? Hark the herald's anchors away. Here there happens mine escape. Freedom forgone, sinking abyss, comets crumble, Phoebus fades under cosmic clamor decay. Hides a path untaken. Ancient echoes come ride, heroes ride. In deafening silence, away with tide. A wave of hazard, come ride, heroes ride. All in windward, away with the tide. Stellar stories, starward bestrewn, slipping sidewise, see their snakes. Twixt the leaves you'll find not a miss. Missing mountain crossing fades, freedom surging, shifting ahead. Comets dancing in her way to the cosmic clarions accord along the path not taken. Try to tread on the road that is borrowed design. Through the sum of the signs do they seek tomorrow? Tonight, witness them as the end shall begin. What was flying will be lies, floating back, further back, ever back to primal, to primal. Come ride, heroes ride, ride with the tide. Come ride, heroes ride, so far from home, away with the tide. Come ride, heroes ride, so far from home, away with the tide. Come ride, heroes ride, to my final escape. Come ride, heroes ride, ride with the tide. Come ride, heroes ride, so far from home, away with the tide. Come ride, heroes ride, so far from home, away with the tide. Come ride, heroes ride, to my final escape. The sigh of the shifting sea, the kiss of the salt sweet breeze, the white of her silken dress stained in red, her memory fading fast, her mother sits, eyes downcast, a torn uniform in hand, farewells unsaid, that once a certainty, lost in grief, a daughter's desperate cries, unheard pleas, forsaken, beaten, tried, on her knees, a prayer passes from her lips into her soul, the goddess whispers. A heartbeat without harmony is moonlight without dark. The heart seek of equilibrium. With balance will your worried heart, so still this broken melody, and there will shoulder thee. One last step only leads. A shattered faith renewed in God's grace. We pray. Chintamani, 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 Chintamani. The late once a certainty, lost in grief. The people's desperate cries, unanswered pleas, forsaken, beaten, tried, on their knees. A prayer passes from their lips to their souls. The goddess whispers. A heartbeat without harmony is moonlight without dark. A heart seeking equilibrium with balance, with your love, all still is falling apart. So still is broken melody and casualty. One last step only, and then to hide behind the sleep. Staring at death, I take a breath. There's nothing left. Now close my eyes for one last time and say goodbye. Lying naked while the snow falls all around me. Drifting closer to the edge, but she won't have me. Wake up and sweat, full of regret. Try to forget these memories lurking beneath, lost in a dream. Unchosen paths, a broken past, forspoken wrath. The pain won't cease, I'll find no
bastard and beast. Oh Lord, step first to the feast. Come claim if you're able a spot at this table, mild and meek down on your knees. For hide and seek, it's time that we feed. Your heart is racing, blood is running cold. Your fractured will is whispering far away. Hear Goliath say goodnight. With each part does your sanity die, sucking the life out, letting the dark inside. Say a prayer as the light leaves your eyes, or scream all you like. Your lightning can't hear you scream. Now scream, your lightning can't hear you scream. Now scream, now scream, scream to suicide. Don't choke on your pride. Scream, scream, now scream. Yeah, I'm gonna watch you bleed. Fenced and free, how does it feel? You're bound as blade, those scars will not heal, no. Lost in suffering, drowning in your tears. Want someone, somewhere, tell me. Go from here, the liar. Say goodnight, with his bite does your sanity die. Sucking the life out, letting the dark inside. Say a prayer as the light leaves your eyes, or scream all you like. Your lightning can't hear you scream. Now scream, the rose can't hear you. Dressed in rage inside my cage, almighty put him else to. Still bound to the flame that I bear, buried alive in the coffin of the hope I used to be. I'll scream all I like, 'cause we're all men here. Forever falling into my mind, deeper, deeper. The shadow of hope I left far behind. Just a stranger, we all strange inside. You can run, but there's nowhere to hide. So scream all you like, no one can hear us. Follow me, come follow me to my deep wooded house. Still bound to the flame that I've been. No release from this empty waking wonderland. Just believe if you like, 'cause we're all men here. Scream all you like, 'cause we're all men here. Shrieks knife through the deep, natureless creatures perverted and evil. From foulness rise, a vermintide. Teeth bared, clawing the air. Sin wrapped in sin, near the rats do not fear you. In slaughter's king, the piper weeps. Just wax mark on your back. Here in the valley, your death casts no shadow. Sin's lane comes from the gate. Lay bare, drink clean, wrapped deep in the molds that feed the menagerie. Burns hot, burns brief, follow till there's nothing left but ash. Dark horizons, void cities, pandemonium from the borders. Chaos bleeds, savage nobles culture feeds. Pandemonium, here behind us, follow me. Dig in, pull back the skin. See what's inside you, the sickness that drives you. Bleeding black, demoniac. Pride breeding, but thrive these seeds. Rotten and weaken, the fruits of your making. Testify, come take a bite. Bite down, blood in the cut, choking on life as a lie.
every secret, every odyssey. Answers unfold.
Good morning and welcome back. This is LoreLines episode 133.
And hello.
Oh my god, mouth, it actually works. I don't have to set anything up. Like you just talk and it goes through. There's no issues. Hey Ellie, how are you? So, last time we were doing the tier list for all of the patches. Meowth, what have you been up to this week?
And eventful and enlightening, and that's all I'm going to say on my weeks.
Eventful and lightning.
Eventful and enlightening.
Okay. Oh, enlightening. Okay.
Enlightening, yeah.
Got it. So I
How was yours?
I understand you've done the role quests and finished all of that.
Yeah.
How was that?
Mhm.
Because I've not leveled all of my classes high enough to be able to do them, but I have heard about them.
It was pretty. It was pretty much so the whole stick of the role quests in Dawn Trail is that they seem goofy and silly, but I did all of them, and they're actually much more serious and disturbing. When you go into them and you look beyond the surface of goofiness and stuff, there's actually really mess up shit going on there. And the final role quests, it was very meaningful. Again, it's the whole thing about separating. If you can not think with what's in front of you, but separating yourself and thinking coolly on the themes. You separate the themes and use, like, from the, how do you call it? Not straws. You sift through the whole thing, and it's quite deep in there, related to other Final Fantasy titles, deeper things that I'm not going to start explaining right now because it would get long, but it's actually really, really, and they never introduce concepts in 14 just because.
Right.
There's always some reason they introduce these things. You won't have any single side quest, lore quest, whatever. Everything is lore. So we go from we always defended that.
Yeah. No. Everything is main. People say there's side content in 14. There is no side content in 14. Everything is main.
There is no side content. In fact, I miss a lot because I don't level up crafters and gatherers. So
you do miss a lot. You do.
I do miss a lot.
With 25 characters, I'm surprised you don't have one that is a crafter or gatherer, just so you can. I don't
have the patience to craft and gather shit. That's my problem.
That's on you.
But yeah, I mean,
that's okay.
That's on me. That's on me.
There is a lot in this game, so I can't fault you for that.
Yeah, and I understand that crafting and gathering would get me enough gil to get the fucking Hades clockwork minion from the market board, but which my aspirations are tame, but because I know my RNG, I'm never going to see one of them, and if I do see him once, I'm going to lose the roll.
Wow. So you are very determined to be the starving artisan in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, been saving up for years. I only have 13 million gil saves them.
Wait, is that 30 or 13?
13.
Oh, is that intentional?
No, actually, that's actually quite fitting. I mentioned it.
That's why I asked. Yeah, it cost 50, apparently. So,
Another
and
6 years of
yeah,
saving would
exactly.
seem.
Another 6 years, and you might have enough, not accounting for
Listen,
in-game inflation.
I'm happy with I have to say I'm happy they gave me Themis' minion with the Pandemonium epilogue, because I like Themis, so at least I can have one of the Unsunded
Mhm.
follow me around.
Yeah, you're lucky that was free.
Yeah,
Otherwise, you still wouldn't have it.
exactly.
Okay. Uh, and I promise we will do an episode specifically focusing on the role quest, because there's stuff to talk about. I don't know what it is, but there is stuff to talk about. I have not done them, so.
No, there is a lot, Cobb. Don't worry. If you need anyone to tell you about the role quest, just ask me, because I was taking notes of everything, like taking fucking notes.
Excellent. So last week we were working on the tier list of all the patches. We had gotten about halfway. We had gotten up to Shadowbringers, I believe, and from there,
We're about
yeah,
we're about to start into Shadowbringers.
yeah. So after that, it's just kind of easy. It's all just S. So
Man.
everything is S tier. So let's see. We had gotten where was it? The Far Edge of Fate. I think we had determined that was the halfway point of the story for the Heidelin arc, which is funny because during the promo we had heard, past the beyond the Far Edge of Fate, Ring Blaze of Light and Dark, and no one knew what that really meant, and I just kind of took it as, there's a patch named that, and then looking back now, I realize, that was probably just a pun. So.
Not, I don't think it's just a pun, but also that line, I will say it's been bothering me for a long time, bothering the knowing at my mind, because it's one line that never of the trailer that never appears in the expansion,
Right.
But and of course it's Hades who says the line. And when you take in mind the part of the trailer in which this whole thing, in which the line is said, which is the final part of Footfalls, which is the theme of the trailer, it's Endwalker's main theme.
Right.
And the final part of the lyrics are actually a dialogue or sorts. It's actually the intertwined voices of the Warrior of Light / Asem and Hades. So it's when they start this trend doing with the intertwined voices. Analyzing lyrics can be difficult, so I'm pulling a Trust Me Bro, so allow me
That's
that.
fair.
We need an episode of analyzing lyrics, but for now,
Another one, yes.
I'm going to pull a Trust Me Bro. So it's interesting that this whole thing, and you have the superposition of the narration from Hades with the Warrior of Light. So it's all a matter of composition. Like, really, if you go through the composition of Shadowbringers thriller, that thriller is a masterpiece of composition.
Oh, it is.
In terms of music, cinematic meaning and imagery and music, it's perfect. Endwalker has its own thing going on, but that part is really, really interesting.
Yeah, if you look on YouTube for analysis of the Shadowbringers trailers, you see a lot of filmmakers reacting to it, because there's a lot there, as far as style and influences. So a lot of people reference Akira Kurosawa at the very beginning. And also Good, Bad, and the Ugly, which is also referencing Akira Kurosawa. So, not
just from the purely phenomenal composition from a just filmmaking standpoint, but us who know the details as lore divers of the story, you go through that and you put all these things together, like with the narrative, and that trailer is mind blowing. I actually did a run of it like weeks ago,
Yeah.
and I think it was 3 hours of analyzing that thing. So
That's a lot for like what, a 5 or 6 minute trailer?
yeah.
So
So
yeah, there's a lot there. The
so
trailers
yeah.
are loaded, but they also lie. But that
Oh yeah.
I would say that that is probably one of the most honest trailers that they have put out.
In many aspects, because most of it actually is a bit of like flashbacks, or they like for the science. It's not like you see them. It's like the situations in between the years they've been on the first.
Hmm.
So you have like a bit of, you see them in that. So it's not like a lie. So it's not necessarily a lie. You see Thancred rescuing Rin. You see Urian Jaragistola
Right.
in the Great Fire that forced the Knights
That's
Blessed to go to Slitherbow. So yeah.
that's what I'm saying. It's there is
Yeah.
less lies in that trailer than in
Yeah.
most other trailers that 14 puts out.
Yeah, and like in Endwalker, but Endwalker is a fucking lie on itself, so
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
it tracks.
And if we
So
look at the Heavensward trailer, for example, we kill Race Valgar at the very beginning. So,
that was a mistake from the model from
still a
the
lie. They
animators.
still put it out.
They
Still
model,
counts.
but yeah, but yeah.
So, all right, let's go back to the tier list. Here we go. This is where we stopped last time. We had gotten right up to Requiem for Heroes, which was the end of Stormblood, which it feels like that was so recent to me, and it's kind of mind blowing how long ago this actually was. This was 2020
Requiem for Heroes? No,
or
Requiem for
2019.
Heroes was no,
When did I go to FanFest?
no, yeah, 2019, yeah,
Yeah,
2019. It
yeah,
was early 2019 because Shadowbringers was 2019 summer.
yeah. You're
Yeah.
right. You're right. Wow. So FanFest was 2018. Jesus Christ. Wow, that was
It's
8 years ago.
been
Oh,
8 years ago.
oh no, no, 7 years ago.
It was I was my fourth year of university.
Jesus. Okay. Oh, so we got you right out of college.
Almost. I mean, I had to eat one extra year because apparently the subjects I choose didn't feel the necessary require checks
Yep.
for graduating. So yeah, I
Ah,
had to eat that. But
well, it's good to know that's something that's not unique to the American system. Great.
I graduated proper in 2020
Okay.
with
Oh,
honors. But
see, cute. That's when I first joined 14. Just finished high school. Oh wow. Okay.
well, not really with honors. Actually, I was. I don't know how do you punctuate. How do you punctuate in America? We punctuate final grades on a 10 point way. So the highest to 10, the highest the punctuation that your grades
Hmm.
on my final degree. Thesis, so to speak, I scored 9.5. So
Okay. So there's of course A, B, C, D, but in
no, right, okay.
university there's a 40-point scale, going
Oh,
from
right, okay,
1.0 to 4.0.
okay. That's a
So
bit sounds a bit complicated, but okay.
it's not. It's like, oh, my overall score is like a 3.5, and they call it your GPA. It's your grade point average.
Hmm.
So,
Okay.
but anyway,
Anyways, we're not here to talk about me.
no, we're not. We're here to talk about Shadowbringers, and every patch after that. So here we have Shadowbringers at the very very start here, and I don't think there's any debate or question about where Shadowbringers
No.
ranks on this list. It's obviously a D. It is the worst expansion. I'm sorry. I wanted to see how long I could keep that up. It apparently was not long. Shadowbringers was the highlight. So easy S. Um,
My only complaint is that we don't have an S plus
yeah,
tier here.
yeah, you're
That's where
right.
Shadowbringers would
It
go.
belongs like up here somewhere. I would say Shadowbringers is very much lightning in a bottle. Um, it's what made me go from I really like this game to I fucking love this game. It's when I started making content.
Absolutely.
Um, it's when I kind of went from casual enjoyment to I need to know what happens next. I'm going to start digging into the lore of this game and see if I can kind of extrapolate from that where things are going to go. And then of course
I'm
this
just
podcast started during Shadowbringers as well.
true. And you know, the whole thing though, it's so fascinating. I mean, I had mm, I snickered when you said lightning in a bottle, considering you know what the setting is
Hmm.
based on.
Yeah.
So I
So
was
yeah, and so many people missed that because they didn't get that far. But no, I remember Shadowbringers. I remember when I was running through all of 13, and I got to Lightning Returns, and they're like, "This is all that's left of the world. It's this little chunk, and everything else is gone." And I'm like, "Oh my god, this is Shadowbringers." Shadowbringers is just Lightning Returns. What is this? And it's just like a one for one. And it on one hand I thought it was very clever. On the other hand, I was a little disappointed because I was like, man, the setting for Shadowbringers is so original, so great, and it just feeds back into the idea that everything in 14 is things that have already appeared in other Final Fantasy games that have been repackaged and given new meaning and recontextualized masterfully, I should add. Um, to varying degrees of success. Shadowbringers, of course, masterful success. You've got Emmett Silk, you've got Lightning Returns. Uh, so it's basically Arden in Lightning Returns, but
which
Arden
is the
done well.
best part of it's the I think it's the best thing arguably of 15. Let's be
I
honest.
hard disagree. My wife just replayed through it. Arden is not the best thing in 15. The best thing in 15 is the banter between the guys. That's the best thing in
That's
15.
fair. That's fair. I mean that was. I mean, aside from the mess that 15 is, which is one way to it should be studied as how to not ruin a good story.
Yeah, which it is a good story. If you haven't played 15, it is a
it,
great story. The best thing in 15 is the fishing game. Yes, it is. Yeah.
it,
There
it's
she
like
is.
you say, it's told terribly, and the real
Yep.
ending of it is it was relegated to a novel.
Right.
So it's like
A
it was hit
novel, a
hard.
movie, an anime, and however many other pieces of media they decided to put out for this game that I did not consume because I refused.
However, things considered, I do think that for coming expansions or expansion actually, they're going to drop on 15, but that ending precisely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and it would make sense. I know the novel. I haven't read it exactly, but I read the summaries of it.
I didn't even know there was a novel.
Um, there is. So that's really interesting thing that I think that 14 also does, and it's really commendable too. That in many aspects, things that they couldn't properly develop in their original games because of real life things, you know, lack of funding, lack of time, lack of development mess. They actually take these things. I've seen it happen more than once. They actually take these plot lines that they couldn't introduce and introduce them in games that are about that. I saw that in the City Opera Omnia, for example, in which Van and Penelo, who were struck hard by the time and cutting department in 12, which is something that Matsuno always lamented, because he said that he had the whole character development for Penelo, but because of the schedules and content, he couldn't add it. So they actually added that in the City Opera Omnia. So I think this is something that 14 also does, in the sense of they want to elaborate on the themes from other games that got shafted in one way or another. So yeah,
I could see that.
and it's
But
great. It's
but
great.
while it does elaborate on the themes, it's still its own thing. It's not, for
Hmm.
instance, this is a character from this other game. It has done that, but it's kind of rare. So the only instances I can think of are some of the events we've gotten, like the Lightning Returns event. We've gotten the 11 event with Aroha. We've gotten pretty much that's the extent of it.
Five,
Maybe Kefka in the
not
raid.
least. Ah, well, but Kefka and Chaos and all that, they're actually recreations from Omega.
Right.
So, but
So they're not actually that character from that game.
actually, yeah, yeah.
So uh, I'm waiting for the Stranger of Paradise crossover. I want it. I want I want Jack Garland. I don't give a
That
fuck who you
that
are.
that game is loaded though,
Oh,
and
that game is
it
so
goes
good.
and
It's
it's
so
it's it's a good
bad, but
game.
it's so good. I loved that game
No,
and I hated it.
I don't think it's bad. It's just that it's been swallowed up in the memes. But
That's the best part.
you're,
The memes
but
are the best part of the game.
the game is actually quite good and
Oh, it's
really
great.
interesting when it comes to the lore given to Final Fantasy One, which is something Final Fantasy One needed, considering it was the first one. Yeah.
I don't think it needed it. I think a little bit of expanding. I think Stranger of Paradise went a little too far as kind of expanding on the lore of one. But I think it was a very solid game. I think it introduced a lot of concepts that were very strong, and I just loved Jack. I didn't expect to. I was like, this guy's a meathead. There's nothing to him. And I played the game, and I was like, oh, this game is fantastic, and he is awesome.
It
And
is.
so, and I
Correct.
loved how it recontextualizes Final Fantasy One. I don't look
Yeah.
at it as this is, you know, Final Fantasy One. I look at it more as this is an alternate version of Final Fantasy One where this happened. But it's quite an excellent game. If you haven't played it,
It is.
please play it. Yeah,
Do it.
chaos,
Yeah.
chaos.
Or watch a playthrough of it if you're poor like me.
Right. But
But
I
yeah, Shadowbringers. It's that one thing that uh, I don't know. It's a masterpiece.
yeah.
There's no other way I can find a way to describe it, and most of it, if not all the carrying in many aspects, comes from our one dear Hades.
I was gonna say
I mean,
up until that point in the game, we had done all these things, and it was very clear, or at least I thought, um, what side we were on, what we were doing. I was like, okay, and this is what's going on. This is why we have to do it. Save the world, blah blah blah. And that was the first time after fighting Hades and beating Hades, and I thought to myself, did I do the right thing? And that's when I realized, oh, okay, this is gonna be great. This where this story is going is great. Because then I really started to doubt, are we really fighting on the right side? Um, that said, after learning about the Ascian plan at the end of Stormblood and why they were doing what they were doing, I was like, maybe they're not entirely wrong. So,
I mean, I don't want to go that much into this sort of discussion in an episode that's about tier making,
yeah.
of course, but because if
Yeah.
but because if I start rambling, then that's going to get long. But
Yeah.
as usual, but but you're right. It's like this expansion, and a big part of it is the fact that this expansion makes us question that up to that point we haven't been questioning. And it's just, and I always point out this about Shadowbringers, in that what Hades reveals to us, it's actually very little. He actually doesn't go into depth of surely what all that he knows. But it's just that has, and I actually did this nav is actually fitting. It's just in this moment in which uh, it just takes a few words, a few statements that makes all that we believed crumble apart and realize all of it is based on a lie.
Right.
And and then you realize this was just the tip of the iceberg that he actually shared with us. And now, when we're at this point of Dawn Trail, which is taken from Shadowbringers, but I'm not going to go that depth. It's just I just want to throw the concept, the question that if that was just a small bit that it was revealed to us, and it was enough to make everything to be questioned, if he actually revealed to us the depth of the reality, how much we may actually realize, it may destroy the foundations upon we believe this reality is the truth. I don't know if I'm making sense. Like, how much more deep gets this lie, and if Hades were to share with us what he actually knows, that which, by the way, by the recent short stories released, we have the confirmation that only he remembers the depth of the rabbit hole.
Right. It's
So,
a deep hole.
so hey, they gave us a fucking rabbit hole as the first thing in the dungeon for 7.1, and the first thing everyone did, an instinct, was jumping inside. So
That's true.
They know what they're doing.
They know their audience. We wanted the Monty Python rabbit. They gave us the Monty Python rabbit.
Yeah. So yeah, the Shadowbringers is still to this day, because I've been revisiting Shadowbringers. Still have to replay, and everyone should replay Shadowbringers. Actually, the first thing I said after finishing Dawn Trail was replay Shadowbringers 2024. I actually haven't replayed it on 2024. Then again, I had replayed it very early, like the early June before Dawn Trail. But I still have to replay it proper. But everyone should be replaying Shadowbringers. Not just because everyone seemed to forget about the lessons from Shadowbringers onto Endwalker, and why Endwalker doesn't make fucking narrative sense, but in Dawn Trail, which takes all the threads that we thought abandoned from Shadowbringers, you have to replay Shadowbringers.
Yeah.
Anyways,
So
I rambled. I end up rambling.
the game has a very, very distinct pattern where it will introduce something, and then it'll go away, and then 2 expansions later, it'll come back full force. It very much happened in Heavensward. Everyone's like, "Oh, the Warriors of Darkness, that'll never come back." And so everyone was like, "Oh, that plot thread didn't go anywhere. It was just a little bit of lore building," and then we got a whole expansion on it.
Cobb,
Yeah.
what would you say if I told you that this pattern was already revealed in one of the side quests in A Realm Reborn 2.0?
Of course, it was.
It's basically, it goes like one step. It's 2 steps forward. Two steps forward, 1 back. So I think it was how it's said. No, 1 forward, 2 back. Sorry. Sure. Now it's messing with my brain. Right. Right. Let me. Right. I'm stupid, but yeah, it's a pattern that it's like you go 1 expansion forward, and that expansion is going to take the themes from 2 expansions back. So, if you think about that, imagine right now Dawn Trail. So, from Endwalker, so Dawn Trail is 1 step forward, in Dawn Trail, but 2 steps back from Dawn Trail is Shadowbringers. So that's how it works.
Yeah, but in Endwalker, and this is another thing. So what was the raid series we had last expansion?
Anemonium.
Yep. And there's a lot of threads opened up in there that will come back in 8.0, I'm sure.
Oh, that's for sure.
Yep.
They're already there,
Yep.
but they're going to sure. But
Everything
for
comes
sure.
back to Ultima.
Right now, the one that's the raid series. Do you know the actual raid series that are actually in force in Dawn Trail? That I mean the content Eden.
Yeah.
Which was from Shadowbringers.
Yep. And they're already working on
So-
the next Ultimate, so there is
Mhm.
there is precedent for it. Okay, so moving
Anyways,
on
continue.
from Shadowbringers, because I think we spent the last 30 minutes talking about Shadowbringers.
And more we could talk
Yeah.
about Shadowbringers.
So what was it 5.1? What was it?
Vows of
Virtue, Deeds of Cruelty. S tier because it's got near. Easy. And I have no idea. So this is where
I mean,
we get Disney. We go meet Becklug. I call it Disney just because it just found the dungeon music just sounds very Disney. And I remember when people get it in roulette, people are like, "Yay, Disney!" I don't really remember anything else that happened in this patch.
it was when we contact Beck Luke to try and find a way to cure the afflicted with the light at the inn in Amarang.
Oh
and
yes,
start working.
the really crappy clay porksy. Got it.
Yeah, that. And afterwards, we go to Ilmor to help Chinese with the whole thing about becoming mayor.
Become a
sorry.
mayor, yeah.
Um,
And he disappeared.
and,
Yeah, okay.
which I will say that whole quest. I mean, aside from point one tends to be the kind of like transition patch in which nothing seems to happen really important, but they're setting the scene for the next thing important that happens. But despite all of this, this patch was what solidified Chinese into being my favorite city-state leader. Because he's the only one. He's the only one who really have wits about how one should rule a city or a nation. Of all the leaders that I remember from the game, he's the one that has the wits to be like, I don't know how to do this, so I'm going to find good counsel. So I don't. And I have and he has his wife who's supporting him, and he says like, when everything is done, everything is settled and done, and Ilmor is back on its tracks, I'm going to step down and let the people decide. And odds are that he's going to be elected again, but at least he's got the right idea about it.
Right. And I would say what stood out to me is that he didn't want it. He did not want to be leader of Ilmor, but when it came down to it and he was put in charge, he stepped up. And he said, I don't want to do this, but I need to do this, so I'm going to find someone, just like you said, who knows what they're doing, and I'm going to have them help me, because I have no idea what I'm doing. Which that endeared me to him. And he was killed almost immediately upon returning to Ilmor by Dulia. He did come back. He got better. But I thought that was just hilarious. A couple of questions in chat. How do we feel about a Four Lords Ultimate? I'm fine with it. I wasn't a biggest fan.
I want that. I want Four Lords Ultimate, please. Please.
Meowth wants it. I wasn't a huge fan of the Four Lords series, but I am a fan of what they did with it afterwards, I guess. Like, they just became this goofy group of auspices. Also, one of my favorite tracks in the game is Aroha, so there's that. I do enjoy hanging out in that
It's
temple.
important. I mean, for Lord is important because they just connected the Turol Vidral with the auspices, so it makes sense. And the whole quest line seems random. It's not random, actually.
No, no, it's not.
So yeah.
Indeed.
And was there another question? I'm not seeing the chat.
Disney because it's evil. No, Disney just because it sounds very. It's a small world. If you've ever been on that ride at Disney, it just I don't know the mix of instruments and the cadence just sounds very yeah. LSA
And when
needs
I
smarter
say
lessons.
I don't see the chat, I actually mean it, Cobb. It's not showing up
Mhm.
in the stream.
Oh, it's not. You're right.
No.
Okay. The chat is broken. I can see the chat, but it's not showing up for some reason. So that's something to fix. I'm looking at it now.
Maybe maybe it's because you changed screen, or it worked
Let me
the
go
other
back and see. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Because I go back and look, there they are. They're all there.
one.
I just didn't want you to read any of it. Rip China's spy. So yeah.
So yeah, apologies if I'm not reading the chat on YouTube. It's because it doesn't show. I'm watching on Twitch, so Cobb will have to rely the comments and the questions on.
Well, now I'm like I'm looking into it. I'm like, what's missing?
It's not lore lines without technical difficulties.
I thought I had gotten away with it this time. I thought it was fine. I was wrong. So, yeah, point one patches. You sure? I thought point four is a setup. So point four is a setup for the expansion. Point one is usually the setup for point three, end of arc. Kind of like what we see right now, where point one is generally a sleepy patch story wise. It's just kind of positioning. Here's what the aftermath was, and setting up threads like not Sphene coming back and real Sphene coming back.
They tend to leave the point one patches with big cliffhangers, though. Like they did this time, they did with back in Shadowbringers when they dropped Elizabeth wearing Albert Smith suit. So
Yep,
but,
that happened at
but,
the end of point one as well.
yeah,
I don't know
right at the
if
end.
anyone wants to argue putting it in S. I just put it in S because that was where Nier was introduced, and I really liked that trailer, and I was so
And
excited.
I
And we got to
mean,
kick the shit out of 9S, which was amazing.
in turn between low S, A plus, if only because it's like from a purely rhythm of the patch. I'm not saying that to change. I'm just
No,
giving my.
I put it up there just because I thought it was funny. But in all seriousness, I think it's an A. It's not an S patch to me. It wasn't like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever. The dungeon
It's
I
an A
found somewhat
plus.
annoying. Yeah, it was a high A.
But the Nier raid looks like a crossover. It is a crossover,
Yeah.
but the storyline of Nier, that's important. Like right now, they're actually taking a lot of things from Nier for
Mhm.
Dawn Trail. Like the first thing Ayumi did when getting to Otis. And the whole thing about the endless was yelling on chat. When did you start,
It's the
Alex?
Gestalt
When
project.
did you start with the Gestalt project?
Yeah, it absolutely is. There's no getting around
Yeah.
that. The endless
No, no,
are
no,
the
no, no.
Gestalt project.
It is. It is. And if they actually following the Nier raids, then things are concerning. But anyways,
Hmm.
like the storyline, that whole raid, replay it. I have to replay Nier actually too. It's been a while since I did the whole quest line.
Okay, so 5.2 Echoes of a Fallen Star. Uh, there's a lot of good in this one, a lot. So yeah, coffee biscuits exactly. This is where Elidibus confronts us. And, this is where we get, the Echo was a symphony. Uh, Emmett Selk was mistaken. Had I been there to offer correction, blah, blah, blah. And really, this is where we see what Elidibus's plan is, which is actually a brilliant plan to say to attack in a way that is very idealistic. Say everyone can be a warrior of light. And then if everyone becomes a warrior of light, then there aren't enough people for a society to function, because there aren't the people who are there running things. There aren't the guards, there aren't the cooks, there aren't the people who are farming. Everyone wants to become a warrior of light, and then society collapses. And I wish they had gone deeper into that in this patch, about how devastating that truly could be if everyone abandons what they're doing, how society just cannot function.
There's another point. There's another point in that. It's like, it reminds me. Have you watched? I suppose you have watched The Incredibles.
Yeah,
the movie.
Yep.
You remember Syndrome being like, when everyone is a super, no one will be.
Yep.
It's basically pointing out that, in a sense too, because this comes up right in 5.3, when the warrior like can have the dialogue option that they believe they were special, and then you have the realization that there's been others. There's the chat. There you go. There's been the realization that you're actually not special.
Yep.
I mean, I do guess that the Word of Light is special. I mean, we're special because we are basically essence or incarnation. That's the thing that makes us special. But in the aspect of being the Word of Light, it's been others. There's been others. So we're actually not special in that.
Right.
We're just the Warrior of Light. There's been other Warriors of Light, and all of them, the implication later on that I'm going to go into when we go into 5.3, is that all of them are actually tools.
Yeah. All of them are tools, and all of them... so here's where we really learn that the Echo and the Blessing of Light are not the same. And this is where we learn that Heidelin just uses the imagery burned into people's souls of the final days to awaken the Echo, and then manipulates them from that point. And so I was ready to kill Heidelin at this point. I was like, let's go.
And it's messed up because it means that the moment anyone else, so you think about that, you think about the logic, it's so messed up. Sorry, I'm going to take the chance to make this point, but first, it works like a radio tower. That alone should be considering where we go at the first part of by the end of the patches and the first part of Endwalker. It works exactly like that. It's a repeater. How do you call it? A repeater? It's like it's a broadcast. Sorry, sorry. And it's fucked up because imagine that for some reason, because the image that's burned into in the memory of the ancient PTSD, basically that's what it is. It's a star shower, means that imagine some, like, you watch a star shower that's more intense than usual, or something happens that reminds you of a star shower. It could even be just I don't know, maybe a spell or something like that, but the image awakens that memory, and it means that you're awakening to memories of your ancient past.
Yep.
It means it doesn't have to be related with Heidelin deliberately awakening you, but it works so that as the very moment someone gets close to remembering their ancient self, the broadcast hijacks you and brings you under Heidelin's. They will call it blessing. I would call it control.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say control. I would say it gave them the blessing, but Heidelin was right there to kind of say, hey, this is what it is. And you know, I have granted you this power because you are chosen by me to do what I tell you to do. Abandon your life. Throw your life away for justice. Fight the darkness. It's evil.
You may be joking. I'm actually not joking about the whole thing being like that.
I'm exaggerating, but yeah, that's pretty much how I saw it. I wonder if anyone.
But and considering things that happen with implications
Hmm.
regarding Endwalker and stuff, it's not comforting at all.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So yeah, there.
There's also something fucked up in the sense of making someone feel like they're chosen. So they're going. There's a lot of there's a lot of psychology
There's a lot of manipulation. Is what it is. Yeah.
play. There's a lot. Yeah, but imagine like imagine the whole thing, the entitlement that you may have if you get someone like divine power telling you that you are chosen, and you're going to believe that everything you do from that point onwards is justified because someone higher has been charged you with that mission. It's fucked up. It's like
Oh, very.
it's like giving you I'm the chosen one, therefore I can do whatever I want because I'm endorsed by divinity.
Yep. I
It's,
mean, look at Azale. That's a perfect example.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and so cute in chat brings up a great question. I wonder if anyone awoke to the echo during the final days in Endwalker, because they should have, based on what we know. Pretty much everyone in Thavner should have the echo at this point.
Apparently, it doesn't work for everyone
No.
because in Ilmor, for example, you know when Elizabeth
Yep. Yep.
shows the illusion of Amarot,
Yep.
there's some people who actually awake to the echo, but others don't. But
Correct.
they still feel the feeling of loss.
Right. Now
So
here's my thing is not everyone who had an ancient soul would have experienced it, because not everyone would have been alive. Some people
that's true.
were in the
That's
live
a good
stream,
point.
which is why I've always argued that the live stream was sundered as well, because if it wasn't, then you would have had unsundered souls being born into the sundered world, and we did not see that.
Correct.
So
It was a full sundering. It meant it only three escaped really.
right,
So yeah.
yep. So
There's also the fact that, to be honest though, they've been implying within game material, and quite recently it was so that they actually brought up the matter of one of the reasonings that the Asians have for the rejoinings, and the whole thing about having a full reset is that like even though they may have complete the souls, their bodies were not meant to hold unsunded souls,
correct.
which means that which makes sense in the sense of the whole thing. If they wanted to restore the thing, they would have to perform a full reset. It
Yep.
makes sense.
And see, I
Though
that's
then
why
again,
I've always wanted my really, really messed up storyline of unsundered souls. Now that we've dumped them into the live stream, of unsundered souls being reborn into sundered bodies, and then after a few years, you have a bunch of kids that wind up dead because they tried to use creation magic without knowing and burned up all the ether in their body.
I think it's more probable that they just can't be reborn if there's not a body vessel that can hold them. That's how it works. Like Bosnia was already working with that, like in the Bosnia reports. So it's quite possible that that unsunded souls cannot be reborn in sunded bodies, and
I'd
you
be
know
okay with that too.
you know how that went in Line Returns. Not going to make spoilers for people in the chat, but you
Right.
know how that went
Yep.
when souls were stuck in there.
Yep. And then people forgot them, and then
So
they were gone. He can never be reborn. Yep, exactly, AC. The Sundering split everything, and the live stream was part of the world. Yep. And then
correct.
we
I
got
mean,
confirmation of that.
the live stream stream was sundered because we know that there's barriers between them.
Hmm.
So I mean, we can see in the cracks by the foundations of the twinning. So
Yep.
so yeah.
All right. So where would we rank 5.2? I would say it's a very high A or a low S.
I would lean into low S, to be honest.
Low
There's a
S.
lot of revelations there.
Yeah, I agree.
Not least of them the whole thing about anamnesis aniter.
Hmm.
That was that in that made me. I mean, it's difficult to explain to someone who's not an Ivalice fan, but the moment they reveal the core of Hydaelyn was named Vena, I
Yep.
freaked out.
Oh yeah.
It was an immediate red flag. It was like, this is not a name that's chosen without a very specific reason.
Right.
And I could explain how it's like one of these things that if you know your Ivalice lore, you would be like, why Zodiark is the supposed evil guy here? It doesn't make sense if you're an Evolution fan. Because Zodiark is the only one of the Lucavi, or the Espers if you want to call them, that literally had nothing to do with Ultima's machinations. Like he went so far as to isolate himself from the whole
Yeah, it's
thing.
like, fuck this. I'm out. I'm gonna chill in my egg.
And knowing what he represents, it was so weird. I mean, I found it weird when I started playing 14 and I was introduced to the concept of Zodiac being the evil guy, and I was like, this is weird. This doesn't align with Evolution lore. And perhaps you could say at that point, I suppose I thought maybe it's a different take on that. But as the expansions progressed, I
right.
don't think that anymore.
You were right.
But yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't think we need to discuss 5.3 at all. We'll just put it in S and move on.
I mean, I would discuss 5.3 in the terms of.
No, go ahead, because that's really where I was like, I need to make stuff about this game. Like, this game is incredible.
Same.
Yeah.
5.3 was the origin of LoreLines, actually. I mean, not until. I mean, we still. It was 5.3 was the origin of LoreLines. We actually pretty much all of us met us in other streamers' chat reacting to 5.3.
Pretty much. I still remember I was in Final Fantasy Peasants, because at this point in 5.3, the big thing was watching other people do first playthroughs of 5.3.
Yeah, and we actually met on those chats, and we were like discussing lore in the chat, and everyone wasn't having none of it because people apparently don't like to discuss lore properly. No. And we went into Discord groups, and that's how things started. And actually, the whole thing started when we started to wake up to 200 messages.
Yeah, in the chat. Is the Orosite basically evil? Wow. I'm gonna call Ivalice Evil Ice now.
That's genius, though. That's genius. Because ice is the element closest to light.
It's Evil Ice.
It wouldn't be the first time they work with homophones, so.
Wow.
Fuck!
I am aghast. I am utterly aghast. And you're all terrible people. You should all feel bad.
No, but really, no, phenomenal. Like, kudos. Like, really. But it's not the first time they play with homophones. Like. Yep.
So the other thing this patch gave us was to be proper.
To be proper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, yay. I know the Neo Raid's reception was mixed. I loved them. Yeah, my ideals are Inviolate. Prelude Inviolate, yeah.
Don't get me to start talking about
We'll get there.
Because I'm working on a script on that. It's mind blowing. That takes long. Don't get me started on it. But Ellie was actually the one who found the stepping stone for all of that. So.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, we will get to that. That's
Anyways,
several
5.3
patches.
5.3 was in many aspects uh, a phenomenal patch. It was uh,
It was the perfect climax
it's
to Shadowbringers because
it
you
was.
you get the hero's gauntlet, you get the seat of sacrifice, and again the same feeling of did I do the right thing after defeating Elidibus?
Oh yeah, of course.
And
That one I remember. I don't know who it was. I remember a streamer saying, "Why can't I feel happy that I defeated a villain?"
yeah,
And that line it sticks in the sense of uh,
just make the
it
video.
it says something. It says something that you realize that maybe I shouldn't be doing this.
Right.
Maybe I'm a terrible person, which and rightfully so. By the end of 5.3, we basically let the ancients to extinction.
Yeah.
So it weighs as it should weigh, even though I think we right now as players we don't realize the gravity of what we've done actually.
God, that just
uh,
reminds me of the Dark Knight quest line. It weighs as it should. So good.
Quest is so great,
Ugh.
but but yes, and I the whole thing is that it's this situation in which so Dontrell does it not so subtly if you pay attention, but that's the first time we actually are put in the shoes of an Asian
Mhm.
when we fight Elidibus, as Elidibus takes the incarnation of the Warrior of Light, who should be us, but then we're ascended as Asem, and we take the position of the Asian. Um, we
Can,
can outright quote Hades and before the fight, which I think is the dialogue option most people actually choose.
can I
But
also say this is the first time ever in the game that we give ourselves a quest?
true.
Because this is
I mean,
where we see the candy on the floor, the convocation
that's
crystals.
true. That's
Yeah.
the first time we actually gave ourselves a quest. That's
Yeah.
true.
And this
That's actually
is
interesting in terms of narrative.
yeah, and this is when we first learn about Azem
Hmm.
and Hythlodaeus
Well, his
kind of
shade
tell.
with Hythlodaeus' shade actually is more or less Hades' proxy,
Right.
but it's kind of, I mean, uh, it's I don't want to go into analyzing Shadowbringers bit by bit because again it gets long,
So
but it's
yeah. I was happy I made a race extinct. Wow.
I'm super and Ayumi calls me the cruel one, but
No, I'm the cruel one.
but but that's when we actually first learn of Asem. Then again, the things that we're told in Amorot's recreation may not be the exact truth, but that's a discussion for another time.
I mean, it's not,
As
nor should
usual,
it be, because we're getting one perspective,
not
and
I
that's
wasn't. I didn't mean that like that. It's more about the whole thing about Hades hiding the real truth beneath layers of of encryptation, if you want to call it like that. So it's like finding out that you go back to Shadowbringers right now with the information we have from Endwalker and Dawntrail, especially Dawntrail.
mhm,
You go back then, and you realize that you understand a whole different layer from what the shades are telling you. So it's almost like if the more knowledge you have more keys to unlocking the password in a sense.
right.
It's really interesting how the themes from Dawntrail apply to Shadowbringers, but but anyways, um, that's the first time at least for going just for what we have now that um we have um this is something interesting that he thought there's a shade. Hades is proxy. You could say that in a sense he may be programmed to say things. I don't know, but just throwing ideas. Um, he doesn't actually reveal to us the name of the 14th. We
Yeah.
only learn the name because there's the message recording in the crystal.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting theme that I would like to touch upon at some point. How these things of mentioning Asim's name uh, come up in the story. Because I suspect there's something going on there. But anyways, that's the most important thing that 5.3 does is putting us in the shoes of the Asian and Elizabeth being the Warrior of Light. So as our enemy. It's the first real perspective. Of course, right in that moment, I suppose the player base doesn't realize exactly what the implications are, but it's there. It's there. And then of course there's the whole thing about sealing Elizabeth inside of the Crystal Tower, which is extremely fucked up. I stand by that. And we get the Catman going full Lassie. So
Yes. You want to talk about that?
so
I know it's been an
Yeah.
hour. We've literally done 4 patches.
if I were to talk about the many times 5.3 made me flip my shit when it comes to Final Fantasy 13, we'll be here a while. It was also in this patch in which, without going too deep into that, as respecting people who want to play the trilogy, um, it was this patch that actually made me start to connect the Unsunded to the figure of Hope. It was only in Endwalker that I actually realized that there was a full connection with the Unsunded. You know why? Because of the raid. um, but especially Hades' figure, you can connect the most with Hope. But Elizabeth as well in other aspects, and La Habrea was a dead ringer when things that happened on Line Returns. so so it was as a Final Fantasy 13 long-time veteran that I devoted 10 years of my life to it. 5.3 was when I saw the things, like it was in my face, like Shadowbringers itself, like you had the setting, you had the main hub being called the Crystarium, which is the leveling system in Final Fantasy 13 and 13.2. You have, in a sense, Amarang, in a sense, the whole thing about the music is very much, in many aspects, very reminiscent of Erba. The empty, which comes from the burn is in 13. It was like the first time I saw something so purely 13 in game, but that was Stormdead, but it was the patches leading to Shadowbringers. So there's a lot in there. I'm surely missing stuff. So
Yep.
the Iron Wars with the Academy is actually spot on and actually has more meaning that now that you mention it. But this is Dawntrail context, so don't get me into Dawntrail context right now because it's loaded. But
No,
yeah.
we're not gonna go that deep into Dawntrail yet.
The thing here, though, I will say, I know that they did consider offering the Catman in for 5.3, and they backpedaled on it. That's as far as we are told.
Yeah.
What we are told is subject to suspend disbelief in them. Like what we are told doesn't necessarily have to be the truth. But that's what we are told. I don't know at which point they may have considered offering the Catman for real, but the thing is that anyways from a character from a purely in a sense personal standpoint. This is the moment to me that I lost any interest of the Catman. I could appreciate the Exarch's character, but afterwards it became a hot steaming pile of
For me, it was the next patch when he devolves into a fanboy that I was like, what is this? Um, but in
Don't get me
5.3, the
started.
Exarch was solid. I loved him. I was like, man, Grahatia got awesome. He is great. Um, so yeah.
I disagree on that take, but I wasn't so annoyed by his existence as
Hmm.
I am. But then again, that's a low blow. That's a low bar
Yeah.
because my loathing for him right now is very much
Your unadulterated loathing
yeah, very
for
very
his face,
intense.
his voice, his clothing. You loathe it
And
all.
yeah, it's. mm, but I have my reasoning for that, and I know that you guys like to make fun at me because it's because he opposes Hades. No, I do have a whole list of reasons no, don't bring me the gondola, please. No, it was the one time in fucking Dontrin I wanted to punch my the screen of my laptop. I was like I'm not doing this. I was like ah. ah.
See, I was fine
Don't,
with the
don't, don't
gondola.
mention. I was not. I was just like wishing I could push the Catman to the water. Like, get me out of this. Get me out of here. I was seething. No, I'm not kidding. It was really. Anyways, but
I love this.
but
This is great.
just like to have me trigger. That's that's the
I
thing.
I would never, never, I would never do that to you. When have I ever done that to you? Except I try and do it every episode. Meowth triggered is good content.
But yes, it was and I will say it was a complete utter ass pull, the excuse they use for having the Catman in our timeline, because of the soul merging with from two different souls from different timelines. But I'm going to respect that in a sense that if we're heading into time fuckery full, which is they already started that by Shadowbringers itself. I can I can respect that in the sense of if that was something we did that messed up further the timeline, then I understand. It's just and I understand the purpose because otherwise it's just it's a clusterfuck trying to make sense of that.
Hmm.
But if we're dealing with time fuckery, then it makes sense in the nonsense. If it makes sense. No, I don't have fear for gondolas. I have despise, loathing, deep loathing about anything that tries to force me a ship down my throat without solid things about the whole, and especially with a character I don't like.
Hmm.
But uh, the thing with the thing, if I start rambling about the Catman in more on a more serious point, is that his character is the incarnation of all the character tropes, stereotypes I hate the most, which is the Gary Stu stereotype, which is the character that's so perfect in everything: virtuousness, kindness, altruism, moral justice, devotion, aspiration. The Catman has no flaws whatsoever as a character. Is this artificial perfect character that even in roles he's an all-rounder. He has the DPS, healer, tank. In Handwalker, we had the Catman state that just by browsing the Forbidden Archive in Shortland, he mastered the spell of levitation that he uses to save everyone's ass in Tower of Sot. There's something deeply Gary Stu about this perfection that triggers me and makes me think as of now, as Dawntrail, that there's a deliberate intention to make this character like that. You can't make a character this fucking artificial without any single flaw, without it, because we know that the 14 writers write complex characters. This character, like this, like how he is built, you can't make a character this bad with writers so good by mistake, if it makes sense.
He wasn't perfect in the Crystal Towers. Yeah, no, he was downright terrible in the Crystal Tower series. But when he came back, he was good. And
Exactly.
like I thought in Shadowbringers up until 5.3, Grahatia was phenomenal because it showed so much development. He was like when you meet him in the Crystal Tower series, it makes sense because he's just this kid basically who idealizes you, and he's like, wow, this person, we went into the void together and did all this stuff and came out, and it was a great adventure. It's what I've always wanted my entire life. And then he goes and does his own adventure, and he basically follows your footsteps and saves an entire shard because you inspired him so much. But when we go back, it's just kind of like, baby. It's like he doesn't know what he's doing. So for 5.4, I would say probably A. But we do get Guyan Reen. That whole End of Eden series was phenomenally good.
Don't get me started on Promises to Keep. I'm writing a full-ass analysis on that. This is going to be it's going to be a challenge.
Well, then we'll save that for the video.
My first musical analysis.
Yeah. We'll save that for the video.
I'm not going to go on that.
Yeah.
But that conclusion and that storyline, that was phenomenal. That's the only thing that's actually saving that patch from being.
Yeah, I don't. This was also the beginning of what I want to call the wrap up of Eorzea. Basically, this is what told me immediately we're leaving. Because I believe this is when we had the Limsa thing with the pirates. Was that here or was that in?
Yeah. Here.
Okay.
It's when we untemper when we.
Yeah, we untemper and. All of that starts going down, and we're like, okay, all of the issues that are going on in Eorzea are getting resolved very quickly. So we had the whole thing with untempering, Limsa making up with the kobolds, the beast tribes kind of not being beast tribes anymore and being equal. That's when that whole thing starts, and that's when I was like, okay, we're leaving Eorzea in the next expansion or two after this whole thing resolves, because here we're wrapping it up. Because
it's actually an excellent point, leaving Eorzea, which has been kind of like our secluded realm where everything has been happening. Even though we went to Othar, for example, it was all because we wanted to solve things in Eorzea. So that's the reason we go over there. When we go to the first, it also has an element of Eorzea, as it's the Crystal Tower, like put in there from a different timeline, but it already has this kind of connection there with Eorzea and saving their realm and all that. So even when we go to the first, we're still consigned to Eorzea because Norvrent is Eorzea in the first.
Yep.
So it's when we actually start to leave Eorzea, not entirely because we still have Sharlayan, which is a massive influence of Eorzea in all aspects.
It's
like
Britain.
the entire era's nomenclatures, saints, religion of Eorzea, all of it comes from Sharlayan. So the grasp that they have on Eorzea is really, really strong. So I would say that it's only by Dawntrail when we go to Turel, and that we truly are going to leave that we have truly left Eorzea.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Let's see.
Lesbians
are the most powerful force in Final Fantasy.
If you know Final Fantasy 13, you know.
Yeah, yep. Let's see. Is this also when we start seeing the towers pop up?
Yes, that was the first time we saw one of the towers, and we are introduced properly to Fandaniel.
Yeah.
He comes to say hi and say that that we can't bother reasoning with him because
Ah,
he's
yes.
doing this for the fun,
This is when he
and
does
that.
the red mage LB3 and blinds everybody.
Mhm,
If
mhm.
anyone's seen that redmage.mov, I loved it.
And he basically says that Xenos is eager to play with us,
Hmm.
and yeah.
I was I was so sick of Xenos at this point. I was like, God damn it, he's gonna be villain in the next arc. I didn't like him in Stormblood. He was in the background in Shadowbringers. Now he's coming back. I was like, oh God, we're gonna have to deal with this guy again.
I understand. I understand the feeling because we also came from Shadowbringers, where the villains, quote unquote, were these characters so complex and not actually really villains per se,
Hmm.
but rather the whole of Shadowbringers is basically that being heroes or villains depends on which side you happen to fall on.
Right.
So so coming from that sort of setting to Xenos again on his murder boner, it was
It was just
it was
such
kind of
a
it was rather
yeah.
rather the downer.
Right. And I saw it as just very simplistic. I was like, you know what? He's such a one-dimensional character. Blah 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 blah. Which changed in Endwalker. He was the highlight of Endwalker for me. But Death Until Dawn, 5.5. I don't.
This one fell short to
Yeah,
me.
this was a maybe a B for me. Like this one, I remember the fight at Cartno Flats against Fandaniel's, trying to detonate
Lunar
the
Primals.
ley line. Yeah, meh,
You know the
meh.
thing that the Do you know the thing though? The interesting part of it is the thing is that this is a patch that maybe we come after Dawn Trail into the next expansion, and the things that it said may make us put it on a higher tier.
Yeah,
But for now, because we don't have the follow up in a sense,
yep.
it is these sort of things that, like the Warriors of Darkness in Heavensward. Maybe if we had done a tier list back in Stormblood, perhaps we had put Soul Surrender in a lower tier
Hmm.
because we didn't have the follow up to Shadowbringers. This is a patch that I suspect may be a similar thing. So I
Uh,
understand putting it on lower right now, but
I
I'm
I would
thinking of.
not have put Soul Surrender lower just because since that patch, I had been arguing that this was going to come back and this was going to be extremely relevant.
Oh yeah, but
Same with the ARR quest about the
mhm.
thinning ether. Like I latched onto that after ARR and I was like, this is going to be important. This matters. Um, so those two
Yeah,
things I was both kind
and
of
I don't
fixated on.
I don't think it's actually resolved the thing about the thinning ether. We're led to believe because they discuss a similar phenomena about the thinning of ether when it comes to the thing about the first, right?
Hmm.
But I don't think but we this is something that the narrative tends to do, makes us associate one thing with something else that doesn't have to necessarily be the cause of it. It's happened a number of times, and I'm keeping that on mind just to try to. It may be something more than what we're led to believe, if it makes sense.
Right.
But as for Death unto Dawn, yeah. I mean, we got the conclusion of Nier, which I know Ayumi would say having Drakengard thrown in there would be enough to have it in A tier.
Which it
But
was fantastic,
and
but by that point, all of the big revelations to me, like we got 2B, we got 9S. Here we kind of figured out what was going on. It was kind of eh. We got the resolution to Anog and Konog, but I really don't remember much specifically in this one. We got Arenvald and Fordola in a wheelchair. Um,
Pagelthan
or yeah, Paglathan. Not Fordola in a
was
wheelchair, but
phenomenal music.
Arenvald was.
No
Um,
harmful in a
yeah.
chair. The thing about the towers it was something that it was resolved in the
Oh
first
yeah.
half of Endwalker.
That's true. Cute says
So
also
all
Fortunal showing up and saying no, we're not going to help and disowning his kids.
That
And then
too, which was
going back to Charlian and getting absolutely neutered by aliens.
the thing about Shirley, and I'm going to talk about that on Endwalker because
Yeah.
it's interesting that you mentioned that in here, but yeah. So the thing is that the setting up of the towers, which right now in 7.1 content we go into the dungeon and by exploring the dungeon, the setting of the facility is very much like one. It's like conceptually almost identical to the towers. So there's even reminiscent structures in Yuriwata station. So I think that's coming back right now. So
Right.
I mean, that's why I'm hesitant to say it's a low tier, but perhaps for the time being, we're maybe I would say B plus personally.
Yeah. I would say B. So we'll put it there. So here's the thing. We've got about 7 minutes left of our time. We spent a long time talking about Shadowbringers. Do we want to save Endwalker and Dawn Trail for next week, or do we want to try and tackle it? I think we should save it for next week.
If you want me to talk proper about those expansions,
I,
then maybe next week.
can you summarize Endwalker and Dawn Trail in like 6 minutes?
No.
Okay, then we'll save it for next week. Uh, so let's see. All right,
We
so
can
I'm-
we can finish up some other points before we hit the end of the patch. Sorry, the end of the episode.
Right. Zeno saying, "Guess who's back from jail? From body jail." Oh God. Okay.
But
So this is looking pretty good.
I
So
mean,
overall, we haven't had like a fail patch yet, which is
No.
coming up in the future, I think.
fail patch.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, in that sense. But here's the thing with the void, and without going into, we're going to discuss that, but without going too much into the void arc, I think, I mean,
Hey,
the
I
fail
thought the
of that-
Heavensward raid series was great.
It was great, yeah. I mean, sorry, you were making a pun. Sorry.
You made the pun.
No,
I
but
just picked up on it.
No, but no, but Shadows of Mag is that one raid that everyone kind of dismisses, and I'm like, you bet your ass they're saving the themes of this raid
Oh,
for something in the
we're-
future that we don't know.
We're gonna have a fifth era arc. It's going to happen.
It's the whole thing about Heavensward and the raids on Heavensward. And again, I mentioned earlier to you. I'm not going to go over on that again because it gets long. But mentioned to you the whole theory about going backwards, right? And the rates from each of the expansions we had becoming relevant plot-wise to the coming expansions. If we go in this, well, anyways, it's kind of messy to explain. But if we go to a Heavensward base expansion, I can see them using the whole concepts of Shadows of Mag and Alexander. So
Okay, so
I mean,
here's a question
technically-
for you. From Q, why was there a Seath in the twinning? I heard that.
Right. Right. The twinning, you have to think. Let's make a bit of connection effort. So bear with me. The twinning is the first of all, the twinning is named after a crystal formation in which there's two different crystal formations intertwining at a core. It's like, in fact, the Auracite in the Grail is a twinning crystal formation. Just so you know, it's in that context, being it named the twinning, aside from, you got the themes in Shadowbringers with the twins, Gemini, Hades and Metzalk, Asen, all the whole thing. Well, aside from all these themes here, twinning you can imagine also as well as the two timelines separated, connecting. That's basically what the twinning is, as it came from the Aeternal Calamity timeline into our current timeline, even if it was a different shard, but the current timeline. So the twinning is that this intersecting point between timelines. This sounds like it doesn't have anything to do, but bear with me. We have that, and we have the monsters in the twinning. Many of them actually come from Final Fantasy 13. Many of them were taken from the models of 13. We got the behemoths, we got the fucking flanitors from 13. We got the Seath, and once you go into the depths, there's not so many. We start seeing though Ironworks themes. The machines that actually comes from the Ironworks, right? Why there's a Seath? I don't know if in this universe in 14 we may call them Seath, but the fact that there's a Seath in there, that's definitely one of the same model actually. Right. Previously in 14, all of the models that come from 13 proper have come from things related to Alag. But Alag actually uses. This is going to sound a bit. So what Alag actually uses is models from the Pulse side of Final Fantasy 13. What we're seeing here, though, in the twinning, are the models from the Cocoon side of it. If you understand 13, you know why this is a big difference, and you should know as well, Cobb. As they are opposing sides in the whole thing. There's very different. You can't say everything. In 13, you can say it's all taken from 13 and just leave it at that. You have to you have to know the context in which all of these models are different. But anyways, that sounds a bit like a mouthful. Now, we have a Seath, quote unquote, whatever it is, on the twinning, right?
Yep.
Then, where is the next instance in 14 in which we get Seath?
Alexandria.
Correct. And not only that, Alexandria also, aside from having the Seaths, which I actually jumped on my chair when I saw those 3 Seaths ambushing me. I was like, fucking hell, okay. It's not just that. In Origenics and Alexandria, there's a number of monsters that actually use the same models as the Ironworks things from the twinning. So I could go into what all of this means. That would get a bit long, perhaps, but there is a connection they're making. That if you clear the twinning, you should know that this thing is connected to this thing. So I suppose you make your own conclusions about how things tie with this and that. I don't know if they're actually Seath. I don't know if they are formed the same way as the Seath are formed in Final Fantasy 13. But what I can tell you is that they are choosing to put certain deliberate monster models in here and connect with the other one. And these things have meaning. You don't put these things on some place without a reasoning that means something. In video game creation or content creation, that doesn't work. The whole thing about they put it there because it looked good rarely is a thing. You have to be conscious of what you choose to put here and there and how you name things and what they mean. It's the whole argument about just because in media making doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's everything has a meaning, really, like, because everything is a part of composition. When I make a composition in my drawings, sometimes sometimes it can be subconscious, like you're mentally, when you're so familiar with the concepts you have to work with, it can be something subconscious. You're not actively making this decision, but there is a reason, even if you're not aware of it. That got a bit psychological, but the psychology of content creation.
Right.
Conclusion: Ultima is controlling us.
Yes.
We just don't realize. It's the illusion of free will.
Yeah. Oh, God. All right. Well, that's going to conclude our episode for today. We will be back next week to finish up this tier list, which we thought we were going to finish today, but clearly it's not.
Clearly not.
Clearly not. So.
See,
right.
I don't know why you worry about you.
I was
just
like,
having an episode, you and I.
I wasn't, but I was literally like, this might fill one episode, maybe, and now it's going on 3. All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. So, Meowth, when are you and Ayumi doing the next Tactics Advanced stream?
Are we settling for live episodes of Lore Lines being on Sunday this time?
For now. Yeah, I don't think this is going to change.
Okay. Then our next episode for Tactics Advance will be Saturday. My time would be 5 p.m. That's GMT +1, so GMT normal would be 4 p.m. I don't know how it's...
That's noon. Noon Eastern
that's noon
time.
for you guys, okay.
But
Noon
most
Eastern
of the
time.
people who hang out here are from Europe anyway, so I don't think Eastern time matters.
Yeah, well, but I know my time zone. I don't know yours. Right. The other thing we have to do, because I'm only streaming on Twitch, but we have to port the Tactics Advance playthrough onto YouTube. So whenever you have the time, we have to work on that.
Okay.
Because there's not so much audience in Twitch, depending, and people on YouTube can click and see our content. And right now, the playthrough of Tactics Advance is relevant story-wise as to content to come. So if you can't join us for the streams while we play Tactics Advance, that's all right. We're going to work on porting them to YouTube so you can watch it as playthrough and enjoy it. And it's one of these games that right now it's a game from 2003. So it's 2003 or 2005. Actually, I don't remember. But it was for Game Boy Advance and has not been remastered, such as Tactics may have been. But you do know that Yoshibi is a fan of Tactics and all of Matsuno's work. So Tactics Advance, I can tell you, is going to be very relevant. But that's something that at some point we may have to discuss independently, with all the things that I've been working with. It's a mess. Don't ask me how I actually keep track of all the things I've been working in since Dawn Trail release. It's a mess.
Right. Okay.
But just so you know, whoever tells you on YouTube that Dawn Trail is a flop, that Dawn Trail has no content, that Dawn Trail is irrelevant, fuck them. Really, fuck them. There's a lot going on.
there is. It's just we're in setup right now, so it doesn't feel like there is. But I guarantee you, 7.3 is going to be a banger.
Dawn Trail is that expansion that's going to be so vindicated.
Oh,
really.
It's going to be just like Stormblood, where people were like, "Oh, Stormblood was but the patches were so good." So we're going to see that same thing happen, because they're not going to make the same mistake they made with ARR. They already did. Mm-hmm. So we're in.
And also, it's important to bear in mind that this is going to be sound a bit harsh, but they planned 7.1. I think they planned it like early after release. By then, surely they have not yet been so conscious of the levels of media literacy of the fan base.
No, I think they were conscious.
So-
And don't call me Shirley.
But if they realize that the fan base is not picking up because of the choice of narrative they're using, which is not their fault really, it's just that the narrative method they're using can be difficult to read if you're not used to. It's all right. It's like it happens, you know. But if they realize that this is a thing, then they may actually by this patch onwards make things more clearer to read for the general audience. I mean, I am familiar with the method of storytelling because I spent 10 years of my time working on that storytelling method. But it's not so usually easy to read. But I mean, if on the bright side of it, if they realize this and they want to make the whole patch content more accessible to, say, the casual player base, which is fairly speaking the largest audience they have, then maybe the patch content is going to be less abstract if it's just in a manner of speaking. But yeah.
Okay.
So I don't think the whole thing about the whole mess about Dauntless is going to last for long.
Yeah.
The patch content is going to be determinant.
Yep. I agree.
But yeah.
All right. All right. Take care, everybody. We will see you next time.
Okay. See you.